We welcome you into another episode of Inside Boxing Live. The usual suspects are here. Dan Canobio, former world champion Chris Algieri. The band is all back together. Ronnie Jerez in the producer chair. We're back in New York from a whirlwind week in Las Vegas. Chris is back from a wild night on the Pro Box set. We have a lot to talk about today. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. A little tired, little spent from last night's massive, awesome fights. Absolute mayhem, the main event. Victor Cano versus Zachary Ochoa. These guys were killing each other. It was
Rolling.
my voice is literally still hurting.
Yeah, man.
But good stuff.
You know, it's like when I call fights too, it's such a come down. Like it will end, and there's 2 hours of adrenaline still flowing through my body. It's so hard to go to bed.
That's why I drive home immediately after the shows in Pro Box. It's
You
a
cry on the
3.5 hour
drive home?
No, I drive. That's why I drive home.
Okay. Right.
I just because I'm still up. I'm like normally, like when we do shows, we're at a casino, and I'll just go to the bar and have a couple beers, and then
Yeah, that
be able
helps.
to go to sleep. But then like now, it's like I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna drive home. But 3.5 hours later, I'm like, all right, now I can go to sleep.
You're a big leave directly after event type of guy. You left Vegas, red eye. We left Vegas at night on the last trip. That's your thing.
I just get the money and go smash and grab.
Yeah. Did you see? I don't know if you saw this. I left Vegas and then went right to Billy's Sports Bar, and I went on a magical run to the finals. Chris,
See that? See that? It was that punch to the rib cage. I'm gonna take full credit.
Oh, I just posted something on Twitter. The footage that Chris Algieri doesn't want you to see. That's me blasting away on you.
Oh, I actually do want to see.
But you're not moving. You're very,
and I didn't even clip it in. And you're like, you're not gonna clip it. I'm like, no, I'm not worried about it.
You're very stationary in that video. But thank you to everyone who tuned in last week. It was the best week we've ever had in terms of viewers. We had almost 10 million views, or over 10 million views, on all of our social media platforms from Las Vegas. Great content. So I love doing those Vegas trips. So thank you everyone for that. I really wanted to start the show talking about the fallout from Canelo-Charlo. There really isn't any fallout. The fight's over with. Charlo embarrassed himself with a no-show. I think his reputation and his image is damaged. I think he can fix it by fighting Zoo and winning that. For Canelo, it's on to the next. And we talked about on the last show, like, all right, the Crawford fight doesn't seem as intriguing to me anymore because I think the Benavidez fight is the fight to make. So very quickly, let's wrap up Canelo-Charlo.
All right, so two things. One, the fallout is that Jamal is out of the running because of his brother's performance.
Well, he just called out Canelo today.
Nobody cares to see that.
No.
Like, it's like, all right, well, you guys are twins. You're going to fight the same. You got the same idea. Like, whatever.
Which is interesting because Jamel all week long was like, I'm fighting for the Charlo name now. I'm going to restore it. Meanwhile, I think he just sank it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, the Crawford fight, I'm not really into. But the winner of Benavidez Andrade, because there's not a given. Andrade is a tricky guy, man. He's undefeated for a reason. Two weight class world champion in his third weight class now. I wount be crazy surprised if he pulls off a win. I mean, he's definitely the underdog. But you can't count Andrade out.
You're the Andrade guy. I know he's your buddy, and you've always been a supporter of his. Like, yeah, it's easy to write him off because he's had such a strange career, not getting big fights, and that Canelo moment will live on in infamy. Canelo kind of clowning him, but he is a damn good fighter. He's a very tricky fighter. So I give Benavidez a lot of credit for taking this fight. I think if Benavidez can get past Andrade, it's another feather in his cap, and it sets up a big fight for Canelo, or at least it should, because Canelo's trainer, Eddie Reynoso, actually brought up Benavidez' name after the fight, which is a good start. I think the Crawford thing is kind of out the window. I don't think Canelo will fight back-to-back smaller guys. We heard the about Charlo being too small, and it turned out he was inside of that ring. So now we're going to take on a welterweight. It's just not the right timing for it. The timing is for Benavidez, so that is the wrap up on Canelo-Charlo. It did do big business too. I think it did over like 600 to 700 pay-per-view buys. So that's good. Wow. Yeah. It's Canelo, man.
Canelo still sells, man. That's that. When people say, "Oh, is Canelo still the face of boxing?" Yes,
he is.
Canelo is still the face of boxing. Right. He just did 600 pay-per-view buys with a guy that, listen, all throughout Vegas, nobody gave a shot to.
No.
Like, so what are we?
It
What are we
didn't really
talking about
sell
here?
the fight either. He wasn't like angry Charlo all week. It was
No.
mostly, let's see what Canelo has left. All right, I'll buy this. I'll use ppv.com and buy this fight and have the live interactive chat with Jim Lampley.
Oh, by the way, I was talking to people during the telecast.
Yeah.
PBC.com stream was clean and
That's
perfect
what I'm
throughout.
talking about.
The other streams, not so good.
We love
Not so good.
we love a clean, strong stream around here.
Mm-hmm. So does my urologist.
Yes,
That's really important.
That's our next endorsement deal. Stream Wars, baby.
I'm 40 now, so I'm almost
how's your
40,
stream,
so
bro? Is your stream clear?
I have a urologist now. So
how's your stream? Is it clear?
That's new.
Is it strong?
So I got
bad.
a story about that off air, but yeah.
Okay, all right. We'll save that for the.
That's for the Patreon.
Yeah, I think we might have to start one. Do you think we should start a Patreon?
We probably should. It's going to help me not get canceled, but yeah.
Yeah, well, we're starting a Patreon, folks, and you can hear all about Chris's urinary tract. If that doesn't get you to put down $2 a month, I don't know what will. All right, segue. Chris is done with this topic. All right, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk is set. We didn't get to touch on it last week because it broke like on the Friday of the Canelo-Charlo. I was actually on the set of Morning Combat with the two doofuses, Luke and Brian Campbell. We got to talk about it there, but I didn't get to talk about it with you, Chris. There's a lot of theories floating out.
I listened to that podcast, by the way.
You came up a lot on it.
It was comical. Very comical.
A lot of fart jokes, a lot of pornography jokes, a lot of Chris Algieri talk.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about your legendary residency in Las Vegas in 2014 in the lead up to Manny Pacquiao versus Chris Algieri.
We went to the Top Rank gym that came up once again. It always does. Whenever we're on the Top Rank guys, they talk about that my time running amok on the press tour for Manny Pacquiao and my dream.
That's for the Patreon as well.
That's also for the Patreon,
yeah.
for sure.
Fury Usyk is set. There's a lot of reasons on why it got set, or theories, or is it because the Ngannou fight no one gives a shit about? So let's drum up more interest in the Ngannou fight and let's have Fury fight Usyk. But it comes down to it's just more money. The Saudis offered Usyk a deal Fury a deal he could not turn down and not resist. Over $100 million. Some people say over $200 million. It's a lot of money. But Fury will be fighting Usyk in Saudi Arabia. December 23rd is the working date. I wouldn't be shocked if it moves into January or February, but we're getting it, Chris. The first 4-belt undisputed heavyweight title fight ever. Big one. Fury, Usyk.
So
why are you shaking your head?
Not so fast.
What?
First of all, definitely not happening in December. Definitely not happening in December. I'd be surprised if it happened in January. I'd be surprised
because Ngannou's going to win.
Stop it.
I know.
Saudi, come on. How reliable are the Saudis?
Their money's green, man, or whatever color their money bills are.
We just had that huge fallout for that heavyweight tournament that they've been talking for December, and the Saudis are like, I'm not interested. And they don't care. It doesn't matter. There's nothing for them to lose. They print money. Doesn't matter to them. I don't know. If we'll see. It's going to take, obviously it took big money to make the fight happen. It took about 100, 200 million. Let's see.
What's the prime, whatever, the big governmental head of Saudi Arabia announced it. So he announced it. Top Rank announced it. Queensberry Promotions announced it. Usyk announced it.
Well, he announced
Fury
it first, and
he
announced it like right before the Canelo fight, which is not.
That was some insider info. Like we went to the Top Rank gym and we got some intel. It was like we didn't even know it was being announced, but once the Prince whatever announced it, we were like, all right, we're all gonna act accordingly, because when he announces a fight, the government gets involved, then it seems pretty real. That's why I think it's real. The only thing I don't know about yet is when it will happen. So if it happens December 23rd,
that a Prince made the call. I can't wait till November 16th, and the Prince wakes up and he goes, "Nah, I don't want to do that anymore."
I'm all right. I'm good. Fury's too. I just watched the last episode of Netflix at Home with the Furies, and I'm out on it. But yeah, I think the only debate is on when it will actually be. December 23rd seems a little wishful thinking. It's I think we'll do big numbers because a lot of people will be home for the holidays, but it seems like January.
Wait, we talked about that. I like that because you're stuck at home with your family anyway on Christmas. It wouldn't be bad to have a fight.
Yeah, and a huge one. Let's talk about the actual fight. How much of a chance are you giving Usyk in this fight, coming off of what was I would say a lackluster performance from him against Dubois? Then you got Fury, who has had a series of defenses that no one really wants to see, fighting an MMA star next. Like, how much of a chance are you giving Usyk in this fight?
Not much. Initial thought, zip zero.
Mm.
But we don't know what Tyson Fury is going to bring to the table. He's been so inactive. But listen, if I'm looking at them based on their their most recent performances, which most recent for Tyson is a year ago now almost. He bears them. He bullies them. He gets physical the way he did to Wilder in the second fight. Makes it an ugly fight. I'm actually not looking forward stylistically to the matchup. I never did. Picturing them in the ring together makes my head kind of shake, and I'm like, they're 60 pounds apart. But Tyson's not just a big oof like Dubois was. He's athletic, he's fast, he's tall, he's long, he knows how to box, he's got defense. And I don't think Tyson is going to go out there and be like, oh, I'm going to go out box the slick boxer. Why? I can just bear hug you and bully you and push you to the ground as much as I can and make it uncomfortable. And we saw how uncomfortable Usyk got when Dubois got physical. So why would Tyson not make it a physical, ugly fight? He doesn't care. He's going to win.
Yeah, the only thing, Fury has been so dominant, you're right, but it's hard to figure out how much he has left or how he looks because of his inactivity and the level of his opponents lately. But historically, smaller, shifty heavyweights have given Fury issues. You have to go all the way back to 2014.
Steve Cunningham,
USSR, or the USSA.
That's my guy. We used to model together, him and I. We were in a separate, same shoot.
Awesome.
Separate photos, but
he gave Fury issues. He dropped Fury at the theater at MSG. It was Fury's first fight in the U.S. Smaller heavyweights can give Fury issues because shiftier heavyweights can give Fury issues. It's just how shifty is Usyk still? Because when we were watching the Dubois fight, there were moments where his defense wasn't exactly on point. Was getting hit a lot. Was moving in and out. We talked about that last. Was it a slippery ring? Was it age? Was it a little bit of everything? Slowing down a little bit. But we're getting the fight. I'm excited for it. We'll finally figure out who an undisputed champ, one face, one name, one belt theory will come to a head. That's fun. At least it will bring some closure to the heavyweight division. For Fury, this could be his last big fight, knowing how he operates. It's like, all right, I got my money. You guys paid me what I wanted. I'm fighting the guy you all want to see me fight in Usyk. I'll win this, and then he can finally ride off into the sunset if he wants to.
Yeah, history is the only thing that intrigues me about the fight. I want a unified heavyweight champion. We're in the unification era. We're seeing it all over. So yeah, undisputed. I want that. I want that for the heavyweight division. I want it for the sport. We're in that era, like I said, the undisputed era. We've got a bunch of undisputed champs. We're seeing it more and more, which is a good thing. So that's really what intrigues me about the fight. But in terms of the matchup, stylistically, strategically, I don't love it.
Okay, we'll move on. Usyk, interesting. Usyk Fury, big one, December 23rd, potentially February. I also do think that the reason it was announced was because the Ngannou fight is not getting any buzz. We were in Vegas last week, didn't hear a damn thing about it. The only thing I did hear was that Ngannou looks so slow. You saw the footage. He looks pretty inept, not ready for that moment. So now you throw in the fact like, oh, Fury must get past Ngannou to get to Usyk, even though the belts aren't on the line or Fury's belt isn't on line against Ngannou. I think that played into the making of Usyk and Fury and the announcement.
I have to agree. I mean, I think now people are just going to. No one cares about Ngannou and gives him a chance, especially like I said with the footage that's coming out. I love the Mike Tyson videos where it's Mike showing him how to like roll punches and go underneath. Meanwhile, the guy's like 6'8". It's like, he's not going underneath anything. Right. And also, he just can't do it. Yeah, I think everyone's going to tune in just to see what Tyson Fury looks like. So they can think like, all right, well, how's he going to compare? Because again, he hasn't fought in a year, so we don't know what he's bringing to the table.
And we're not going to learn much about Fury either in this Ngannou fight.
I wonder if he's even training for this.
Fury? He looks huge, I don't think, dude. I know he's always fat, but he looks like especially out of shape.
Yeah, so I think people will tune in now. I think it was a smart idea to announce it, prior to the Ngannou fight, because now there is some interest. It's like, all right, well, what's Fury going to come in? Is he going to come in fat? Is he going to come in shape? Is he going to look good? Yeah, so I think that's where people are going to tune in for. I mean, hey, listen, boxing fans are suckers. We're going to tune. You and I are going to tune in.
I'll watch. Yeah, of course. I think there'll be some general interest, but it's not as big as what they think it's going to be. But they're making that Saudi money over there as well. Big news this week comes in the business side of boxing, and that is something we heard for a while now. We heard some rumblings out in Vegas, and that is Showtime Sports getting out of the boxing business. 37 years they've been in the game. Yeah, exactly. HBO got out in 2017. We had heard rumors from every Showtime detractor, whether it was Eddie Hearn or whether it's some of these trolls on Twitter, that Showtime was not going to last. And it's not official, but it's, if you read the tea leaves and you talk to some people in the know, it seems like Showtime, they will be done in 2024. But rumors have Amazon Prime being the potential landing spot for PBC. It's the preferred landing spot that Al Heyman wants. They've had some ongoing talk. That's interesting because Amazon Prime has 150 million subscribers. That is a big, big number. So if PBC can get to Amazon Prime, I'm not worried about PBC and Al Heyman and PBC finding a home. That's something they've done since day one, whether it's NBC, Fox, CBS, Spike. They went over to Showtime, and they've always been able to find a deal. So I'm not worried about that. But it does make it pause a little bit when you hear another big enterprise, another big institution like Showtime Sports closing its doors to boxing. It does. It hurts, but it also makes me hopeful for, all right, how can we move boxing into the future and get it onto a streaming service that everyone has?
I think your trepidation and your worry comes from the fact that it was a monolith of boxing history, but that's really it.
Yeah,
we're entering a new age. I don't think it matters anymore. It's everything streaming. I had the inside track on the Amazon Prime thing because I know some other organizations that were trying to get in there as well, and they've been trying to do that for a while. So yeah, I mean, the world is streaming. Everything's changing. The pay-per-view model doesn't really work anymore. The premium channels don't work anymore. We're coming into a new era. So yeah, Showtime Boxing falling, HBO Boxing falling. It's nostalgic for dinosaurs like us. But it's the way of the past, man. We're entering a new era. It's a shame because generally boxing fans are older.
Yeah.
Older than UFC fans, older than a lot of other sport fans, which makes it really difficult for them to keep up technology-wise, which has hurt us in the past 10 years or so, maybe even more. I remember even when I was fighting and my fans, a lot of which were older Italian guys from Long Island, were asking how I can watch the fight.
What the heck is this DAZN?
It's on DAZN, and they're like,
"Ooh, Discovery Zone."
What is that? How do I watch that? I'm like, oh, it's an app. It's on your phone. Like, oh, ooh.
Yeah, but Prime, I feel like is like a lot easier. Like you can figure out Prime. Everyone has Amazon Prime to order packages and all that. It's like one of the easiest things that my mom can figure out how to order Amazon packages.
I watch Prime all the time.
Yeah,
that's how I watch Showtime. I actually have a Showtime subscription through Prime,
right?
Just so I watch boxing. It's the only reason I have that subscription is to watch boxing.
There was rumors that that Showtime would stay in business next year just to distribute pay-per-views. Pretty much what they did this year. Ryan Tank, Spence Crawford, Benavidez, Plant, and
at least they went out with really good fights.
Well, that was a reason. There was a reason why they did that, and that was a theory that I've been thinking about for a while. I'm talking to some people in boxing. It's like they're putting their best foot forward because they knew that they were going to have to shop around. So hey, look, this is our product. Look
what we've done lately.
Yeah, look what we've done lately. This is our product. But there is value there. PBC undoubtedly has had the best year because they have the best roster here in the States. So it's just a matter of time on where they land. If it's with Amazon Prime, that's just one rumor right now. They could just have preliminary talks, and Amazon Prime could be out, and then you go to maybe Apple.
Let's just have them on John Boy. Let's make our own network.
On Inside Boxing Live YouTube page.
Dan, yeah, you and I just take it over, and we can go hammer out the deal with Al. And I
would love to talk to Al. I met him like 2 or 3 times. I have been asking a lot of fighters about Al Heyman, all great things, and I know he has his hand in everything. My first time ever on television was with Fox and PBC in 2019. They put me on the air for like a 1 or 2 minute hit from my old studio to talk about stats and stuff. And I heard,
and Ronnie, that was the last time he was ever on television.
Freaking COVID ruined that. I was about to be a huge TV star. 2019, I was on Fox, bro.
I know. Wasn't
Fox
it because
Sports.
You got canceled because you said something on air?
No, I wasn't on Fox News. I was on Fox Sports.
Sorry, my bad.
I was on Fox Sports.
My bad.
But long story short, Heyman had to sign off on that, right down to a 1 minute hit with the CompuBox guy from his little studio in Bellport, Long Island. So he has his hands in everything. Boxing is a sport of deals. You know this, Chris. They make deals. So I'm not worried about them trying to find another deal. Like, they have value. There's a lot of big names out there, but the problem is these big fights do well. $20 million gates that Espinosa was talking about. You know, the big pay-per-view numbers that we just saw with Canelo and Ryan Garcia, Spence Crawford. It's like the other fights, the Showtime Championship Boxing, like with a Donaire on the main event, or like Boots, or like a Jamal James. Like, those fights did really bad numbers. So I'm wondering if, like, an Amazon Prime are they only interested in the big pay-per-views, or are they interested in the full catalog just because they want content? Are you interested in a random Saturday night Showtime Championship Boxing or a PBC Championship Boxing from the Punch Bowl in Carson, California? That's what I want to know.
Good question, and I think it's gonna go the same route. I think that they're gonna make their money on the big fights and the pay-per-views, the championship level, and then their building program or their grooming ground is going to be weak in terms of numbers, in terms of people tuning in. That's why it's so. You know, Dan, you know about this better than anybody. COVID killed the club show.
Yep.
Which ruined promoters' ability to groom guys on the way up.
Slowly coming back.
Slowly coming back. But New York has killed it long before because of insurances and price and cost and everything. Doing a show in New York is stupid.
You lose a lot of money.
Yeah, you're literally every promoter is doing it, losing money just to get their fighters fights.
Yep.
So, which opens up a lot of opportunities for different kinds of promotions. A promotion like Pro Box, which is not the championship level, allows for a grooming ground for a lot of these promoters to ship off their guys. And you have 2 shows a month, so there's a lot of opportunities there. But it's not enough. We need more of those. Right. And because these promoters have so many fighters signed. And for people at home, just a little inside boxing live. These promoters have a contractual obligation to a certain amount of fights per year to their fighters. And if you got hundreds of fighters and you owe them 3 fights a year,
and the network,
that's a lot of fights.
Right. That's a good point.
There's not enough dates.
It's not enough dates.
So not enough dates. And that's why they're going to be shipping off and outsourcing their networks to other promoters, other networks, because there's just not going to be enough dates on Amazon Prime. Which is good for the smaller guy. It opens up it creates a vacuum that opens up for smaller promotions and smaller networks to get future stars on their air.
Yeah.
But yeah, people are not going to tune in to those, Amazon Prime local shows the way they are to the main cards. But also it has to do with marketing. They don't market them the same way.
Yeah, it could be different.
There's no building the young guys. There's no building the future. They really just make their money on the names that are already there.
Yeah, Ronnie, perfect segue. Can you pull up the video? This is what I want to touch on next. It's Oscar De La Hoya, and obviously we know he's a wild man. He's a wild man. He'll post some interesting things. He'll say some wild stuff, but you have to get through that sometimes for this message that he had recently on Instagram. Let's take a listen.
We want boxing to survive, and we want boxing to thrive. We need super fights, like all the time. Fighters must fight each other. We have to come together. Promoters, Eddie Hearn, Al Heyman, Bob Arum, whoever's out there, let's come together. I'm calling you out. Let's come together. Let's meet the power of the minds and come up with something, because boxing can die. I'm calling you all out. Let's do this. And plus, don't miss Zurdo Ramirez and Smith live on the Zone this Saturday at the Cosmo.
Love the plug at the end. Oh, we're gonna talk to about that fight, but he's right. He's crazy, but he's right. The promoters have to come together. With Showtime going out and PBC looking for another network, and big fights being made this past year, showing out that big fights have to be made for the sport to survive. I think that now is a time, not for the world of all promoters, just the U.S. Like if Top Rank, Golden Boy, PBC, all found a way to work with each other, all met, had a big meeting and said, guys, we can't continue with this fragmented way of doing business. We can't. We have to make the biggest fights. We have huge stables of fighters, big names. So if we can all come together somehow and make the biggest fights on a continual basis, the sport will all there's enough money for us all to survive, but there's not enough money out there for us to be so fragmented. I know it's a pie in the sky type of thing, but we're seeing it has to happen. The stars have to align. PBC looking for potential home for a network. Golden Boy looking to work with Top Rank. There was a picture of Bob Arum with Oscar De La Hoya this past week. A lot of big fights out there. It's a pie in the sky. I know you're shaking your head, Chris, but there are so many big fights to be made. I think if they can find a way for all these guys to fight with zero networks in the way, boxing could surpass UFC, and it can be a massive sport.
Dan, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you. Look out the window. Look to the right. I
There's
think
no
you probably
windows in
see it
here.
from. Yeah, well,
See the
to a
59th
window
Street
room.
Bridge?
Look out there. I got a bridge for you. Great deal. Really good one.
Mm.
I got the. I'll write up the deed for you. You know, we can work that out. We said it early. This is a sport of deals. There's no deals if there's one. If everybody connects. These guys want their slice. That's it. You mentioned Al, how he had to sign off on having you there. You know why that is? Because he wants power. It's not just money with these guys. These promoters don't. It's not just money. Money's definitely big.
Yeah.
They want their power, and they like their power. They like their position. This is boxing. The promoters like the fight too. They want to beat the other guy at the negotiating table. They want to get the extra signage. They want to get the guy to walk in first. They want to get the bigger cut. I'm telling you,
gotta
these
go
guys.
Away, though.
That's not going away.
But
It's
when I hear
part
from
of this
guys like
sport.
Tiafimo says pretty much echoing what Oscar said. They had a meeting last month, and it's not coincidence that Oscar and Tiafimo are kind of using the same message points here. Like, the time is now for us to make these big fights. Like, Tiafimo wants to fight Ryan Garcia, wants to fight Devin Haney. Like, you got to make your money now. I think we can all agree there that you got to fight now while you're in your mid-20s to make your money. Don't sit out anymore. Don't marinate fights anymore. Yeah, you bring up the guys they want to make deals. Al Heyman, Bob Arum. They're getting up there in age, man. They're getting older. So Bob Arum isn't going to be around forever, as we may think he will. But we don't know the future of Top
Until
Rank.
there's a unified body overseeing things that has teeth, nothing is going to change.
Well,
Because the
maybe
next crop of guys,
Yeah.
dude, the next crop of guys are going to do the same thing. They're going to do the exact same thing.
Well, what has to come
why
first
not?
then? What comes first then? All the promotions coming together, or a unified organization? I think if all the promotions come together and then they go to the WBC, the IBF and all them, and they say, "Yo, we don't even need you guys anymore," then I think they'll get nervous and then they'll come together. I know this is like a crazy idea. It's a crazy idea.
There's no reason for them to come together. That's my entire point. There's absolutely no reason.
I think
for
there's
the
more money
promoters
in
to
the
come
pot
together.
if they all come together. Like, DAZN is struggling with subscribers, and they're struggling with getting eyeballs on there. I wouldn't even think about Matchroom because I think of them not much in the U.S. They have a few good fighters here. I think of if the U.S. boxing wants to survive, I think they do need to come together in some way, whether it's not even like an official partnership. If they just start working together more, we start slow. We have Arum and Golden Boy and Top Rank, which I thought should have merged years ago. They come together, and they bring us a Tiafimo versus Ryan Garcia fight. That's the fight I think is going to happen.
Well, it's gonna be a
February.
case by case, fight by fight basis.
Right.
There's not gonna be a unified coming together the way that De La Hoya is talking about it. De La Hoya is wearing his promoter hat. He at the end of his message, he promoted his fight this weekend.
Yes,
He
I
had
get
his promoter
it.
hat. He had his promoter hat on the whole time. It's all smoke and mirrors. Listen, they're going to do the same backdoor deals they do for everything. Sure, they're going. It's great to see Bob and Oscar in a photo together. So they're not literally biting at each other's necks. So yeah, okay, they can come together and make a fight. But listen, the deal is going to get done behind the closed doors. They're gonna shake hands. They're gonna figure it out.
Right.
No one's going to know the real details. This is boxing because there's no reason to put it in the light. Boxing, everything gets done behind closed doors.
Mhm.
Everything. They're not going to come together in a way that shines light on what they're really doing.
Right.
There's no need to.
In my mind, I would love to see like a big announcement, kind of like UFC and WWE came together to form TKO. That's another thing out there that's kind of floating around. Dana White wants to get into boxing, and maybe he can look at a PBC, maybe he can look at a Top Rank. That's out there too. But I think if there's ever a time for everyone to come together, a great reset, because I don't think they can survive on their own. I don't think these promotions can be their own entities, like Top Rank simply with ESPN, Matchroom simply with DAZN, Golden Boy simply with DAZN as well. Like it's not going to work. It would work for a few years, but I always thought, okay, let's look 3-4 years down the line when you're exclusive, your promoter is exclusive to a network. It might work for 3 years, 4 years of in-house fighting with the fighters you have on your stable, but eventually you're going to run out of fights, and you're going to have to. Arum's going to have to team up with De La Hoya to bring us a Ryan Garcia versus Teofimo Lopez.
I think team up is the wrong word. They're making deals. That's all. All right. This is where this could really actually do something and be something. If there was a yearly promoter summit and every promoter had to show up and they had to meet and they had to be almost like I'm thinking of John Wick. And they had the common ground, like that hotel where there's no fighting,
right? And
there's no combat, or you lose whatever. But again, there's no teeth on any kind of overseeing body. But if there was a self-governed, even because they're not going to allow anyone else to come in, a self-governed promoter summit every year where everyone came together and just spoke about what can we do for the health of the sport. And listen, that's going to be bullshit because they don't really care anyway. They're going to try and make as much money as they can. But if they can come together and just be in the same room and talk instead of just throwing barbs at each other on Twitter, it's really, listen, Twitter's Twitter. It's really hard to be nasty to somebody's face. So I think if you put all those guys together, like we saw Bob and De La Hoya together, that was cool. I mean, it's 20, 30 years in the, since these guys have really, been smiling together. Yeah. They had a brilliant relationship early on, big falling out. A lot of falling out in boxing, but listen, the population is so small, you can't fall out for any kind of period of time.
Right, you're gonna need each other.
Business. Absolutely,
what I mean,
you
you're
gonna
gonna eventually you're gonna need each other, and eventually you're gonna have to come together to make big business. So I do think there's a way for it to all work out, for the better of the sport. We'll see if it happens.
Promoter summit. Let's go.
Summit.
Let's get that going. Let's get that name going out there. Let's get a hashtag promoter summit, boxing promoter summit.
No, it's a start, man. It's a start. I think it has to come in waves. And the wave right now is PBC, one of the biggest promoters in the U.S., looking for a deal. Maybe they can come together and do that. Let's go to the.
I bet you that deal's already done. The way Al moves, man.
I would not be shocked.
Al does not get caught with his pants down. That guy makes the deals. He gets the money. He figures it out.
Right. I that's one thing about Al Heyman. He knows how to find TV deals. So I would not be shocked at that either.
And money. He finds money.
That guy is money. Let's go through the fights this weekend quickly. Ryan Garcia is fighting Oscar Duarte December 2nd.
Fight.
I like this fight. I mean, a lot of people are looking at it like, who is Oscar Duarte? Yeah, he's a lightweight coming up to 140. 11 straight stoppages for Duarte. He's 26-1 with 21 knockouts. Mexican fighter that comes forward and will engage with Ryan Garcia. This is the type of fight that Ryan should have taken before the Tank fight. This is not a stay busy fight for Garcia. This is a fight to see exactly what Garcia has left. That's crazy to say at his age, and how much longer he wants to get in this. Not a pushover fight by any means. December 2nd on DAZN, Ryan Garcia versus Oscar Duarte.
Yeah, I mean, tough fight. I think this is it's good matchmaking. You got to put them in tough. I like guys in tough fights. I think it's really important for their development. It gets you ready for the big fights. We're gonna see how but there's danger there because if you don't look good, then everyone's like, they write you off. But listen, I'd rather have the guys prepared and have a good fight, and rather than they show up and have a fight like how we fought Tank. But this is a tough fight, and there's no gimme. This is a real test to see what Ryan can do at 140. Yeah, he's in a new weight class. Listen, he had great power. Definitely has speed. Still has speed. Does that power carry up? 140 pounders are different, man. 135 pounders, 140 pounders. It's 5 pounds. Huge difference in terms of physical strength and durability. We saw that with Teofimo when he moved up. It's like, the punches that he was icing guys with at 35, guys are walking through at 40.
It took him like 2 fights.
He had to become a different kind of puncher.
Yeah, for sure.
He's still not what he was at 35. He's got to be more of a boxer, counter puncher. He's a boxer puncher for sure, but he's not starching guys like he was at 35. And I don't think he ever will again at 40.
It's good you bring up Teofimo Lopez because that is the fight that I think will happen early next year. Ryan Garcia versus Teofimo Lopez. There's a reason you saw Teofimo Lopez with Oscar last month. There's a reason you saw Oscar and Bob Arum this week. There's a reason why you're hearing Teofimo talk about the champs have to fight the champs. The best fights have to happen. I understand Ryan Garcia is not a champ, but he is a big-time name. This is a guy that did a $1 million pay-per-view last year with Tank. He generates money. Teofimo Lopez Teofimo Lopez has a belt at 140 pounds. I've heard a lot of fights being swirled around there. Teofimo versus Tank, Haney getting in the mix. The fight that will happen next year, first quarter of 2024, will be Teofimo Lopez versus Ryan Garcia. Mark my words.
Teofimo deserves it. It's a money fight. I think it's a good fight. I think it's an interesting fight. I think people get really excited about it. There's always drama swirling both guys, so it's going to draw in casuals. Ryan has so many non-boxing fans, which is good. It's going to get exposure for Teofimo. Because Teofimo, we're both very high on Teofimo. I have been for a long time. He's one of my favorite fight weeks to call fights for, because he's just
Dude,
so
imagine that fight week.
And it's insane. And his fights are just awesome. He's an incredible talent. So I think exposing him to the mainstream fans that follow Ryan, I think is going to be really good for Teo. And plus, he's going to make big money because there's a big price tag attached to Ryan and fighting Ryan. Ryan's going to make money like he always does. Ryan doesn't really, he can make money without even boxing, but he still chooses to fight. I definitely favor Teo in that fight. I think he's much more dynamic and has a lot more layers. But good fight.
Yeah,
good fight.
Fun one. He's got to get past Duarte though. Duarte it's not a pushover fight.
That's not a gimme.
It's not a gimme at all.
He's got to look good.
Yeah.
He's got to look good. He can't just get past him.
All right. Before we say goodbye, fights this weekend. There are two main events over in the UK. Lee Wood, our guy, is back in against Josh Warrington. Wood is a -225 favorite, so the odds makers still aren't looking at Wood as some big juggernaut because of the vulnerabilities he has. Warrington, you can get him at +175. I don't love this fight. I think Warrington's getting another title shot simply because he's with Matchroom and they have no one else for Wood to fight. Warrington is 1-2-1 over his last 4 fights. I like Wood in this fight. I'm not betting against him anymore. I bet against him in that Lara fight, and what did he do? He made Lara look like a fool. So I would take Wood as the favorite. You can get that for -225. Chris, your thoughts on that fight?
I actually spoke to Warrington. He was.
Did he headbutt
one
you?
Of the top right. No.
So he does.
I've spoke to him on social media in recent years, but I ran into him at one of the top ranked shows. He was I forgot who he was with. The Kambosos fight. He was with the kid that beat Kambosos that night and got robbed.
I forgot his name already. That shows you. That's right there. I said what was his name? It's gonna piss me off. Whatever. Keep going.
Yeah. So I ran into him.
Maxie Hughes.
Maxie Hughes. Yes.
All right.
Sorry, Maxie. Really nice guy. Good fighter too. But I ran into Warrington then, and he told me that the Wood fight was being talked about. I was like, ooh. I'm like, all right, good for you, man. Good for you. But this it kind of fell into the radar. Not a lot of people are really talking about it on this side.
Mm-hmm. It'll be big there.
Yeah, it'd definitely be big there, and it's one of the reasons it was made. It's just how much does Warrington have left? He's been in a lot of wars. He's never been a puncher. Wood is a strong guy, and he can crack. So it's going to be volume versus Wood with the power. But
Wood by knockout.
Wood had a lot of tough fights in a row, and with a big puncher. Lara's a big puncher. And he had the Conlon fight, which that was back and forth. And Conlon's not a big puncher, but he got hurt in that fight too. So fighting a not big puncher.
That's why I bet against him against Lara.
Yeah, well, I think Lara shit the bed. I think he didn't show up the same animal he was. Didn't make weight.
Yeah,
probably was celebrating the victory too much, which happens with a lot of Mexican fighters after they have some success. Good thing about Lara is he's young; he can come back. But this fight, it makes sense from the promotional standpoint. It's gonna, like you said, it's gonna do well over there. It's kind of a fight where Wood doesn't have to fight someone who's a killer puncher, and is a very winnable fight for him. But Warrington, man, he's an old grizzled dog at this point.
Grizzled dog. Wood by knockout +275. That's interesting. Wood by decision is +120.
I think that'll probably go to decision.
+120 is pretty good odds. I maybe would look at that. Zerto versus Joe Smith. Interesting fight, weird fight. Fighters can't come in over 193 pounds. Cruiserweight Joe Smith, cruiserweight Zerto. This might be an absolute barn burner, but it's just like a weird, interesting, like two guys at 175 that are now cruiserweight. Obviously, I'm rooting for Joe Smith because he's from Long Island.
Oh, Joe's my guy. If Joe wins, it's going to be a good fight. If Zerto wins, it's not going to be a good fight. And I'm not saying that because of who I like. I'm saying it's because stylistically how they're going to have to fight and have to win. Joe is always in good fights unless he's getting thoroughly outboxed. Like the Bivol fight was not a good fight. He hurt him at the end, in later rounds, whatever. But Bivol came back and dominated him, for the next couple rounds. For the whole fight, pretty much. So, yeah, it is an interesting fight. I'm happy whenever a Long Island guy's fighting, and Joe, like I said, Joe's an exciting guy if he can make it a fight. Zerto, man, Zerto's good. He's a southpaw. Joe has very limited in-ring experience with southpaws. And Zerto's a big, long guy with good body punching. He's I think the size will benefit Zerto in the weight class because he's the bigger guy. But Joe can punch, man.
Joe said he wants to come in at 200 pounds.
Which is
not like in the ring. So he's in the weigh in at 193, and then he said I'm only going to gain a few more pounds to be at 200. Zerto's had a ton of issues making weight.
He might not make weight for this,
right? And there's fines in place. I saw that Smith said if he comes in at over a certain 193, there's a lot of fines for that. Props are right now Joe Smith plus 250 underdog. Over under is 10.5. Let's see props.
I'd bet Joe on this. I mean, it's and not just because that's my guy from Long Island. I think he's a live dog. Always.
He's a dog, and he owns Joe Smith Tree Service. I had a big career aspiration to interview Joe Smith up in a tree when he was going on that run at 175. So he wins this fight. Maybe we can rekindle that.
You've got a lot of bad ideas. That's not your worst, but definitely not a good one.
Yeah, we got close. We got close to getting up into a tree and interviewing Joe Smith. That is our show this week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back next week to break it all down and talk about the next big story in boxing. Keep your hands up at all times. Protect yourself at all times. Join our Patreon to watch and listen to Chris urinate. Goodbye.